Hello everyone, I'm Sanne Erven and I'm the host of today's session. Today I will be joined by Craig from Adobe, based out of the UK, who's dialing in at the moment. Hi Craig, nice to see you.
Hi Sanne.
Hey. So let's dive straight into today's topic, data modeling and how organizations can leverage the power and flexibility from Adobe Experience Platform. Let's fire away with the first question. So when preparing for personalized experiences with AEP, what do customers have to consider when they load the data and create data models in AEP?
Sure, let's try and answer that for you. I'll just bring up a slide. So, as you can imagine, we work with a number of different customers across many different sectors. So obviously financial services or any other different organizations, and they have data in all different types of silos. So this brings a kind of a conglomeration of a number of different data points, a number of different identities as well that we have to consider. So building a real-time infrastructure can be quite challenging for our customers. So we see that they're not always set up to provide data in this format either. AEP likes quite a flat data structure. And the real-time data needs to be ingested at the point in which an event happens. So this could be a website click, or this could be somebody calling into the call center, for example. So again, in reality, this is quite difficult for our customers to provide us. So usually data is delivered some via batch and some via a real-time stream. And in AEP, we have a concept of a profile as well, a profile attribute data, and also event data. So a profile attribute would be something like a first name or last name or date of birth, and then we would have an event, which would be something like somebody clicking on a website button, for example. And then we obviously have identities on top of that. So we have an identity graph which joins up our customers together based on a single key or a number of different keys. And then one of the key things as well is we build segments based on the data in which we ingest. So to conclude, we can load data in AEP as an attribute or an event. Identities must be set up in a way to target individual customers, and we can use a combination of both of those.
And I guess customers already have a number of data models in place, and customers are also used to navigating this data in a particular structure and format. So how can customers ensure consistency across existing infrastructures and AEP?
Yeah, that's correct. I'll bring up another slide and help you to try and answer that question. So customers' existing CRM data is normally a direct mapping into the profile attribute data. So, a CRM attribute like a date of birth is mapped directly into our profile attribute data. And one of the advantages, I suppose, of the Adobe ecosystem is that customers who are familiar with using our other tools like Adobe Analytics or Adobe Target, for example, there's a natural flow of data into AEP from those connectors. So it means that the customers, I suppose, got less to learn when using something like AEP. But more importantly, what we've got a feature is we're able to define our own data schemas that directly match the customer's data schema, or we can use one of the Adobe out-of-the-box industry standard schemas. For example, it's deposits on a website, or it's e-commerce schemas, or we can use a combination of both, and we find our customers actually use a combination of both. So to summarize, Adobe Experience Platform offers the ability to create our own schemas or reuse existing models, or the industry standard templates, or a combination of both.
I can imagine that it comes with a few challenges, and I know that you're also working for quite a few customers of Adobe. So what are the key challenges that you have experienced so far?
Yes, I'll bring up another slide. So you're right, there are a number of different challenges that we have to try and overcome. One of the first things is to get the customer to try to reimagine the way their data needs to sit. So a lot of customers are used to sort of relational databases, whereas actually with AEP, we need to think about more event-based, so customers actually doing something. So instead of an account just being opened and an account, for example, being created in a database, we need to actually think about what the event that needs to be triggered off to enable us to put that against our profile. We also see that AEP is built around XDM, which is essentially JSON. So that can be quite challenging for customers to get their head around how to sort of move away from traditional databases into sort of XDM format. We also see that customers obviously have data in a number of these different data sources, and they come from different places. And with that comes the fact that the identities aren't lined up across the different systems. So for some sources we have to use, say for example, a customer ID, and another source we may have to use a device ID. So Adobe AEP offers what we call the identity graph that joins up all of these data sources together based on a common identity. We also see sometimes that our timestamps for the events aren't aligned, so we have to do some normalization around that. So in short, there is kind of like a rethinking of data that needs to happen, converting data points into events. We have to kind of think about the benefits of real time versus batch. And AEP offers kind of like a number of out-of-the-box connectors as well to help us to really quickly connect into the customer's data sources.
Quite a lot of things that you need to consider then when starting off such a project. So let's say you have the data now in AEP. What can you do with it? So for example, I want to optimize my marketing spend. How would I do this?
Yeah, so again, I'll break up another slide. So we've got something called attribution modeling. And for those who don't know what attribution modeling, I think the first thing is probably key to understand what is attribution modeling. So we have a conversion event. It can be purchasing of a product or signing up of a newsletter, and we attribute that portion of spend across the different channels in which a customer interacts with. So it could be email campaigns, it could be display, and the model is a way of proportioning that spend across the different touch points. And we also advise our customers to try and focus the model in a bit. For example, just a general use case, if I want to increase my marketing spend is okay, but it's better to refine that somewhat. Say, for example, I want to improve my mobile app spends with my male customers in the UK, in a particular season, for example, is something that we recommend. We also need to determine where the model is going to be executed, what data we have. So do we have 36 months or 3 months of data? We need to consider the population. And how clean our data is. Also, who's going to be running the model? So will it be a data scientist or will it be more of a marketeer? And how often to update the model as well? So there's a number of things to consider. We also need to consider sort of marketing spend data as well, if there is any. Yeah.
So some find attribution modeling a bit of a minefield. So how to know where to start and what to do?
Yeah, sure. So I'll bring up another slide. So in AEP, really, there's 3 main places where we can run attribution modeling. We have CJA, which is Customer Journey Analytics. So this is kind of Adobe's new 360-degree view of the customer. In here, you can run all of your models based on the data in which you have inside it. I suppose it's quite black box in the sense that you pick a number of attribution points or models that you want to run, and if you like, out pops a report. It's really good for very quick analysis. We have another place in AEP where we can run models, and that's Data Science Workspace. So this is actually built around Jupyter Notebooks, for those who know it. And data scientists have access to the whole of the data in which they ingest in AEP. Obviously, this is the digital data in which is collected via the app or the web, for example. And they can run all their custom models in here, which is fantastic. So not only attribution modeling, and then we have Attribution Ai, where customers have more control over running attribution models. So, for example, looking at a training population window, looking at seasonality and region, and they can schedule up the attribution models as well. So, really, there are 3 main places where we can run attribution models in AEP, and I suppose. Depending on the use case, will depend on which one we choose.
And with these options available, how do I know which one is the best model for me? Which one will work for me?
Well, I suppose you probably have to think about one size does not fit all. So let's think about a product that has a really long life cycle, for example, like a mortgage. It's very unlikely that the customer is going to see an advert for a mortgage and instantly click on it and buy, right? Whereas, if it's something like a washing powder, maybe that might be a different story. So the model in which the customer chooses will be very dependent on the product life cycle that exists. So for example, a first touch model wouldn't necessarily suit a washing powder maybe, or a last touch model might suit that better. So there's many different kind of tweaks that we have to look at first. So I suppose custom models are the most complex in nature, but they offer sort of the best tailoring for the business. And they might want to, instead of attributing the same amount of revenue for 2 visits to a website, they could look at what we call maybe an engagement model. So, for example, where a customer interacts with the business for longer, maybe, for example, it creates a session that's 20 minutes long where the customer interacts with the website. Is more valuable to the business than where somebody just clicks once and sort of runs away, if you like. So that's where a custom model would come in, and then we have algorithmic models where it's suited more for customers who have a multitude of different purchase life cycles, and the AI really does the thinking. So yeah, in summary, AEP offers 3 types: rules-based, custom rules, and algorithmic models. And choosing which one is determined by the business model and the resources that the customer has.
Thanks a lot for explaining this, because I know it can come across as quite complex, but you made it sound a bit more simple, depending also obviously on the situation at customer side. I'd like to switch to another topic that I would like to discuss with you, and that's artificial intelligence. So I know that AEP also has some AI features. How do I leverage these features for improved targeting and personalization?
So with intelligent services, customers can obviously use the data that resides within AEP, which is great. It's all there. And we have these almost wizards, these setup blueprints that the customer can use. So for example, we have churn propensity. Okay, so this is used when we're predicting unfavorable things that the customer might do. So obviously, one of those things is leave. So cancelling a subscription or not returning to the website, for example. And generally, high is bad and low is good. And then we have purchase propensity, which is kind of like the opposite, right? So we want to predict when somebody's going to actually purchase something. Or it could be a product or a subscription, or even going to a registration form. And generally, high is good and low is bad. And then we have what I spoke about previously, custom modeling. So where we use data science workspace, where customers can use Python and R and Scala and many different things. So one of the things that with all of these models really is the key thing to sort out first is determining what data points are going to impact the model. We call these coefficients. So what points are actually going to impact the model and cause a greater amount of people to churn, for example. Maybe that's somebody visiting the how to leave us page or something along those lines. So yeah, in AEP, in summary, we can do some really good out-of-the-box modeling using our kind of UI and wizards. But we also have the ability to run these custom models in data science workspace.
And once you have these model outputs, how do you activate them?
So I think if we go back to sort of where we were at the start of the conversation, and the key thing with Adobe AEP is the profile, right? So attributes. So, we talked about first name, for example, as actually an output of a model is just an attribute. So, for example, a churn score, a customer is going to have a churn score of maybe 90%. So that's exactly what sits against the customer profile. So then when we build our segments, we simply say, right, select all of our customers that have over 90% churn score. And then we can actually mix those with other things as well. So maybe it's the churn score over 90% and they clicked on the website 3 months ago, and they're also male, and they also live in the UK, right? So then a segment is built. Then once we've built the segment, we can then activate the segment. So we set up a number of different destinations, which could be something like Facebook or Google Ads, or can be another source system. And therefore, that's when we send the data across to these other channels, and where they're activated. And AEP really is very good at that. And the key for us also is to make sure that we define the use cases at the start and the data model to support these destinations, to make sure we have the right identities set up. So in summary, really, we've got to make sure we have access to the right fields to build the correct data model, to build the relevant segments and deliver the right message to the customer at the right time.